I am the moderator for the Winnacunnet School District. I'm honored to fill this role and look forward to a good meeting tonight. To start the meeting, I would like everyone to rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, welcome to the first or deliberative session of the annual meeting of the Winnacunnet School District. This is the annual meeting of all registered voters in the towns that send students to Winnacunnet, Northampton, Hampton, Hampton Falls, and Seabrook. Only the residents of those towns may speak. Under New Hampshire law, the moderator, me, conducts the meeting. The moderator's rulings are final unless the meeting votes to overrule the moderator. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to discuss, debate, and possibly amend the articles in the warrant, which I hope you each have a copy of. They're available outside. My job is to facilitate that process in as orderly a way as possible. Our ability to amend is limited. Warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law may not be amended. We cannot change or eliminate the subject matter of an article. No new purposes can be introduced that were not identified to the voters in the posted warrant. We can change dollar amounts in money articles. All amendments must be in writing, and we will deal with them one at a time. All questions should be directed to the moderator. I will then choose who responds to the question. No one should speak without first being recognized by the moderator. Once you are recognized, please move forward to speak into the microphone at the lectern in front of the stage. Introduce yourself and let us know where you live. Please focus your remarks on the content of the article or amendment and refrain from personal comment. All speakers must be courteous and must speak to the issues, not the individual raising them. I will not allow any personal attacks or inappropriate language. All voting will be conducted by hand or standing unless 5 voters present at the meeting request in writing prior to a vote that the vote be taken by secret written ballot. I, as the moderator, will only vote to break or make a tie. If the vote on a motion ties, it loses. One bit of housekeeping before we get started. In the event of an emergency, the exits are on either side and in the back and where you came in over there. Okay, the first order of business is that I will entertain a motion to permit the following individuals who work for the SAU or for Winnacunnet High School, but do not live in Northampton, Hampton Falls, or Seabrook to speak. Meredith Nadeau, Bill McGowan, and Matt Ferraro. Is there a motion?
I make that motion.
Leslie LaFont has made that motion. Is there a second? Nicole Chico has seconded it. All in favor, raise your cards. Okay, anyone opposed? Great, that motion passes and those 3 individuals will be allowed to speak. Okay, let's get into the warrant. The first article, Article 1, and I will read it in its entirety. Shall the school district raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth herein, totaling $32,236,730. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $32,117,244, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the school district or by law or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 4013X 10 and 15 and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. A majority vote is required. And one important note, the warrant article does not include appropriations in any other warrant articles. This was recommended by the school board 4-0 and recommended by the budget committee 6-0. Is there a motion to open the discussion? I recognize Tamara.
Mr. Moderator, I move to open the article for discussion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Tricia O'Keefe seconds that. Does anyone wish to speak to the article?
I do.
Matt, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So thank you, Chris, and good evening to you all. So the proposed FY26 Winnacunnet School District operating budget is a result of a pretty extensive months-long development process. We begin that budget development back in September. And throughout this process, the administration, school board, and budget committee truly engaged in multiple iterations, and we carefully reviewed as well as refined the proposal to really ensure that it aligns with our school's needs and our priorities. So the budget is developed using a zero-based budgeting approach. This means we assess every department and every line item and start from the ground up. We determine exactly what resources we need, what materials are necessary, supplies, staffing that's necessary, and we utilize a full staffing analysis in order to determine what personnel is necessary in each one of our departments. And that's all with the intent to align with our technology plan, our facilities plan, capital improvement plan, as well as our SAU 21 Portrait of a Learner strategic plan, which our school improvement plan rolls up into. That's a lot of plans, but what the message is we've been working at these plans to develop a budget for multi-years for both those short-term goals as well as long-term priorities. So when looking at that, really where the heart of our work is a commitment to provide our students really an education that promotes creativity, innovation, critical thinking, problem solving, and responsible decision making. And that's achieved through collaborative and independent work. Ultimately, we believe this will enable our students to become active, contributing citizens of our community. And it will also help to prepare our students to achieve their full potential. So I do want to extend my gratitude to Principal McGowan and his administrative team. They really put a lot of work into this process, and they collaborated with our tremendous teaching staff and other employees when we tasked them with assessing our budgetary needs and trying to prioritize what our resource allocation is in order to achieve student success. I also want to recognize the hard work and the commitment of our school board, as well as our budget committee. They really played a critical role in ensuring that our budget is both educationally sound, but also fiscally responsible. Thanks to them, we are presenting a budget that supports continued academic excellence. It fosters full student development and remains mindful of cost efficiency. We always want to ensure that every dollar that is invested is done so wisely in order to benefit not only our students, but our community. So the proposed budget is designed to strengthen academics and student success. It aligns with our Portrait of a Learner plan, as I had mentioned earlier, as well as our school improvement goals. And it's meant to ensure a high-quality education for all of our students. In order to do that, we are enhancing our competency-based learning, looking to refine teaching methods and promote ongoing teacher reflection and improved student outcomes. Beyond academics, we're also committed to data-driven support system that meets the academic, social, and emotional needs of every learner. So this budget is more than just numbers. It's truly an investment in student achievement and their future success. So success, we talked a lot about test scores, achievement, assessments, but success really goes beyond those academics in a safe, inclusive, and engaging environment. We are committed to student and staff well-being. We are looking to celebrate achievements and strengthen family and community connections. Every student, regardless of their background, or their identity, they deserve to feel valued and empowered. We also aim to raise environmental awareness and encourage students to lead sustainability efforts. Additionally, we will expand our social emotional learning programs, and that's to help students develop the skills needed for success in schools and beyond. Ultimately, a school culture is key to unlocking their potential. So, finally, I just want to note when it comes to our Portrait of a Learner and School Improvement Plan and goals is great schools really are built on that shared leadership model and collaboration. So we are always empowering our students by amplifying their voices. This is both in decision making and helping them take ownership of their learning and really creating a transparent, inclusive school community that helps our staff and families work together for that common vision for our students. And finally, I just want to note that we are committed to supporting educators with professional development. It's, obviously our focus is student growth, but our faculty growth is equally important. When our teachers grow, students thrive. So our budget does reflect our belief in our people, our leadership, and continuous improvement for a stronger school community. So when looking at a budget development process, enrollment is a key metric, and that's the case with Winnacunnet's enrollment projections. We do utilize NESDEC, so that's the New England School Development Council, to analyze our enrollment trends and also to project future student populations. So according to our current projections, Winnacunnet anticipates a relatively level enrollment of 981 students in 2026. So while we don't anticipate a significant change in enrollment, I will note that monitoring enrollment really helps us to guide staffing, determine resource allocation, and determine some of those long-term planning that's necessary in order to achieve our high-quality educational experiences. So by leveraging some of this data-driven insights, we do remain committed to proactively adapting based on those enrollment changes, while also continuing to uphold our mission to support student success. So embedded in the budget are cost of living adjustments for 3 employee classifications. We have our 2 unions, our teachers union and our paraprofessionals union, so our educational associates, and then we have our non-union employees. Non-union employees include our facility staff, food service, our technology personnel, administrative assistants, and our administrators. So the cost of living adjustment for the 2 unions is contractual, and that's reflected in the collective bargaining agreements that were approved at ballot. Those are both 4-year contracts, and both of those agreements do ensure predictability and fair salary adjustments for our union staff. In regard to our non-union employees, we do determine the cost of living adjustment based on the rate of inflation. So we utilize a consumer price index, so CPI-U, and that's for our geographic region, the Portsmouth region. And we go, inflation is backward looking, so we're going from July of 2023 to July of 2024, in which case that rate of inflation, the CPI, was 3.5%, and we did recommend an SAU-wide cost of living adjustment of 3.5%. and that's for all of our non-union employees across the SAU. So the proposed operating budget for Winnacunnet for FY26 stands at $32,236,730. That reflects a decrease of 2.88%, or a reduction of $957,258 from the prior year FY25 budget. I will note it is $119,386 higher than the default budget. So this budget highlights the district's dedication to sustaining and enhancing our educational services, as well as fostering continued growth and success within our school. But by prioritizing financial sustainability, the district strives to maintain excellence in education while really being considerate of our economic impact to our taxpayers. So the reduction in the operating budget can be attributed to a few factors. First, we have the expiration of the 20-year bond for the school building projects. That's eliminated the principal and interest payments, and that's resulted in the bulk of our reduction. So that was almost $2 million for that bond. Additionally, there are personnel reductions, including the elimination of one teaching position and one associate principal position. The teaching position, we always try to align reductions with natural turnover. So that one teaching position is a retirement that we're not filling, and the associate principal position is currently unfilled, and we do not plan to fill it. So lastly, when we're looking at general cost-saving measures, we did look at all of our discretionary department accounts, and we really prioritized essential requests and looked at where we could reduce expenses elsewhere. So these adjustments do reflect the ongoing commitment to financial sustainability, while also maintaining our current high levels of educational standards. So similarly, there are several factors that contributed to increases to the budget. First, there were the salary adjustments for our aforementioned employees. So we had 3 classifications: our teachers, our educational associates, and our non-union staff members, who all received cost of living adjustments as well as step increases. Additionally, our health insurance premiums have increased by 4.8%, which is reflective of the ongoing healthcare increases that we've been seeing over the years. When we look at our at costs for school budgets, both locally here at SAU 21 and nationally, there's really 2 primary drivers for school budgets, and that includes health insurance, which has been disproportionately higher than the rate of inflation. The other cost item is special education, which is another budget driver in this budget. We have seen an increase in our transportation costs for our out-of-district placements. As well as some professional service costs. I will note that all of our special education costs are based on state and federal laws per the students' individualized education programs. So those are legally mandated costs. Additionally, we did see an increase in our vocational program, so that's SST. That's an increase due to 2 factors. One is an increase in participation, and the other is an increase in the tuition rates. That's one of those increases that I see as a positive, because we are seeing more students participate at SST, which is really a great thing for our school community. So these budget drivers really underscore some of the financial pressures that we're facing. I think you've all seen some of the inflationary effects at home, with just the cost of living, whether it's groceries, gas, the cost to heat your home. Those have all increased dramatically over the last number of years, and the schools know has the same issues. We're seeing increased costs across the board, whether it's supplies, materials, any contracted services that require labor. We've seen some significant wage inflation. So, as we look to assess our financial outlook, our objective remains the same. We want to invest in our schools wisely, but minimize that burden on our taxpayers. So, I want to note that the combined financial impact of our operating budget and the roof replacement warrant article, which is the only other warrant article on the ballot, results in a 0.74% increase over last year, so FY25 operating budget and warrant articles. And this was deliberate. The timing of the roof project was strategically aligned with the expiration of the building bond. And that's going to help offset, or it is helping offset the costs and reduce that future financial strain. This investment in our roof infrastructure is crucial for ensuring our long-term savings for Winnacunnet. Delaying this project would risk insulation damage and potentially increasing that cost by 30% if we have to replace the insulation as well as the roof, along with rising materials and labor costs. So looking ahead, we project that FY27, that budget and warrant, that ballot total cost will actually remain stable or decrease because we're essentially extending the bond one additional year. So this will help our schools continue to thrive while keeping the financial impact manageable. And really that underscores our commitment to excellence while being responsible stewards of this resource. So now I'm going to go into the budget detail. And this narrative is going to capture the key increases and decreases across our various budget categories. I will provide a summary of the budget, whether it increased or decreased, and then the reason for that variance. So general education has increased by $232,450. That's a 2.9% increase and brings the total to $8,246,679. So this increase accounts for salary adjustments, and that includes our cost of living adjustment and step increases for both our teachers and our educational associates. And I will note that this particular account represents the bulk of our teaching staff. Additionally, we did have a rise in our ESOL needs, so that those contracted services have increased. We are funding substitute teachers, which is based on expenditure history, and our ROTC has been adjusted based on actual expenditures. So those increases were partially offset by the reduction of the one teaching position that I had mentioned earlier, along with decreases in our books and print media account, our equipment account, and our repair and maintenance account. So our special education budget increased by $69,607. That's a 1.49% increase, totaling $4,753,717. That increase, as I mentioned before, is primarily, I did mention before transportation, and that's a different special education account, so my apologies. So I didn't mention it before. This increase is the salary adjustments for our teachers and our educational associates, again, tied to IEPs. Our vocational programs saw an increase of $96,212. That's a 30.81% increase for a total of $408,524. So that's an area that I had mentioned earlier that is a big budget driver and was driven by higher student enrollment, as well as a tuition increase set by Seacoast School of Technology, so SST's, their governing board. Our student activities account or budget saw a modest increase of $13,717. That's a 1.39% increase for a total of $1,952,000. So this reflects, again, salary adjustments, as well as some incremental increases for our officials, our repairs, our athletic and non-athletic equipment. Additionally, we did see some savings, and that was in contracted services, our rentals account, and our uniforms account. The summer program is budgeted at $95,250. That's an increase of $14,500 or 17.96%. And this is primarily due to salary adjustments and some inflation-driven costs with our supplies, and as well as the effect of higher student participation. So oftentimes we will under budget based on our anticipated participation levels, but those have been rising for our summer programs. Evening school is seeing a budget of $159,651. That's an increase of $8,994 or 5.97%, and that is merely the salary adjustments for our staff. Our guidance budget is $1,229,553. That's a $36,446 increase or 3.05%. That includes our salary increases, and we did see some reductions in our tutoring accounts, our testing account, and our workshops account. Health services is seeing an increase of $3,269 or 1.83% for a total of $181,602. That's again based on salary cost of living adjustments, and was reduced by a reduction in supplies. Our speech services budget increased by $4,507 or 6.35%, for a total of $75,530. Again, that is salary cost of living adjustments. Our other support services budget remains unchanged at $1, and we maintain this account for potential future use. Improvement of instruction is budgeted at $392,001. That's an increase of $30,084 or 8.31%. And that has been driven by greater participation in our ELO program. So that's our extended learning opportunities, as well as salaries. We did see some offsets in decreases in our summer technology integration hours. Educational media is budgeted at $223,289. That's an increase of $19,691 or 9.67%, reflecting salary adjustments and escalating costs for our information access fees. Information technology is that's aligned with our technology plan, and that's budgeted at $803,022, an increase of $29,936 or 3.87%. That supports our ongoing technology needs, including our equipment replacements, our supplies, salaries, and software. Support services is budgeted at $70,000. That's unchanged, and that reflects the cost for our truancy officer salary, as well as our cost for the school resource officer. So the SRO is an employee of the Hampton Police Department, and we contract through Hampton PD for those services. The Board of Education is budgeted at $83,287, a $783 increase or 0.95%. And that's due to a small increase in our audit costs. We do have a relatively new 5-year contract with our third-party independent audit firm, that's Plotzik and Sanderson, who conducts that financial audit on an annual basis. SAU Services is the central office, so this Office of the Superintendent, budget, accounts payable, payroll, our HR services, and that budget is increasing by $17,676 or 1.72% at a total of $1,048,137. So this is Winnacunnet's allocation of that budget, and I will note that the SAU model does provide that efficiency to provide cost savings with shared services, economies of scale, shared personnel in order to best serve our individual districts, while also maintaining or allowing for the maintenance of each district to have their own identity, their own culture, and autonomy. So the school administration is seeing a decrease of $98,046, or 9.12% reduction, and with a total of $976,783. So this decrease is primarily due to the reduction of the associate principal position. However, that reduction was offset by some increases in our workshops accounts, seminars, and rental equipment. So our buildings account does align with our long-term facilities plan. We are seeing an increase of $71,452, or 3.8%, for a total of $1,953,328. This increase is based on really some inflationary factors. We've been seeing cost escalation with our trash removal, our insurance, that's our property and liability insurance, our supplies, and facilities maintenance. Grounds saw a slight increase of $5,394, or 2.09%, for a total of $263,500. Again, grounds was hit hard by inflation, so we've seen increases in our snow removal, our lawn mowing, our equipment accounts, and we did see an offset on our grounds maintenance and repairs account. Vehicles increased by $19,365. That's a 45.1% increase, for a total of $62,301. So the reason for that large increase is the need to purchase a new school van. So that includes that cost to replace the out-of-service vehicle. Transportation saw a large increase of $363,995, or 22.06%. So that's a total of $2,013,911. This was that special education increase that I had mentioned earlier. Additionally, this is our second year of a 5-year contract with First Student, and they supply our general education, transportation, athletic transportation, field trips, as well as other transportation. When I say other transportation, that's for music festivals or math team events, or to service our homeless and foster population, which we're required to provide transportation for through the McKinney-Vento Act. So we're coming up to my favorite account, and that's debt service, which is seeing a decrease of $1,978,187. So that does reflect the maturity of our 20-year building bond, which has been paid in full. Employee benefits saw a modest increase of $57,570. That's a 0.77% increase, for a total of $7,530,086. So that includes a 4.8% health insurance premium increase. However, we did see a small offset with some savings in our New Hampshire retirement system. They did reduce the employer contribution slightly, but really the largest savings here was that we have a health insurance expendable trust, which we utilize to safeguard the district against volatile healthcare costs and changes in employee offering or elections. We're budgeting 12 to 18 months in advance, so employees get married, they have children, so their health insurance often changes. So that can be pricey, but what we've been utilizing the trust for is to hedge a little bit in the health insurance account, and we under budget this account, knowing that we have the trust, or we could try to absorb it if we find savings elsewhere in the budget throughout the year. That brings us to the interfund transfer, which remains unchanged at $3,000, and that's used to cover any potential food service budget deficit. So all the accounts that we just went through represent the general fund, and that funds school operations. The other fund that the school has is the food service fund. The food service fund is separate from the general fund. It is intended to be self-sustaining and funded via the National School Lunch Program through USDA reimbursement for free and reduced lunches, as well as revenue from students and staff who purchase lunch. Now, if we run a deficit, the general fund needs to cover that deficit. So the interfund transfer is intended to cover any deficit that the food service fund has. Now, in this case, we typically run pretty much an even, we're pretty good with the food service budget, so it's very minimal. So our food service budget is $662,626. That's an increase of $23,327, or 3.65%. Again, this is another account that really has been hit hard by inflation, and that includes our food as well as our supplies, paper goods, all those accounts that are or those purchases that are required in the food service account. So that brings us to the default budget. The default budget for FY26 is set at $32,117,244. As I had mentioned earlier, it's $119,386 less than the proposed operating budget. So the default budget represents the same appropriations as the previous year's budget, and then it's adjusted for debt service, for contractual items, or other legally mandated obligations as stated in the statute. Additionally, the default budget is modified in that it's reduced by any one-time expenditures or by any eliminated positions. So when I had previously mentioned that we reduced a teaching position and an associate principal position, those two positions were reduced from the default budget as well. So the default budget calculation does follow a statutory formula, and that may result in a higher or lower amount than the proposed operating budget. Typically, it's lower, but depending on specific circumstances and mandates, whether there's legally mandated items that we need to incur, that could change from year to year. But ultimately, the default budget is intended to serve as that baseline, and that's intended to ensure that the district continues to meet its obligations that are either contractually or legally obligated. So in short, this budget does reflect the district's ongoing commitment, and that's to deliver high-quality education while also carefully managing resources to meet both operational needs and legal obligations. So this budget reflects careful planning to balance the district's priorities and practicalities of rising costs, contractual obligations, and strategic adjustments. And that's to ensure that all of our resources are allocated efficiently to meet both our short-term and our long-term needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Are there any questions? If you have any questions, feel free to come up to the lectern and grab the microphone and ask away. Okay. Seeing none, the article will appear on the ballot as written.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
I would like to move to restrict reconsideration of Article 1.
Is there a second to that?
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to second that.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of the motion to restrict reconsideration, please raise your cards. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Okay, let's move on to Article 2. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,587,361 for phases 2 and 3 of a multi-year project to replace and repair the roofs at Winnacunnet High School. This project is part of the facility plan adopted by the school board. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32-7, Roman numeral 6, and it will not lapse until the project is complete or June 30, 2030, whichever is earlier. A majority vote is required. It was recommended by the school board 4-0 and recommended by the budget committee 6-0. Is there a motion to open discussion?
I move to open the article for discussion.
Thank you. Desiree Potter has moved to open discussion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second from Nicole Chico. Chico, I'm sorry. I keep blowing that name, sorry. Should know by now. Does anyone wish to speak to the article?
Yes, please.
Matt, go ahead.
I promise this will be shorter. So the school board is proposing a warrant article to raise and appropriate $2,587,361, and that's to fund the final 2 phases of the roof replacement project. And that's outlined in the roofing plan. We do utilize a consultant to evaluate our roofs and to develop those replacement plans, as well as our 5-year capital improvement plan that is submitted to our various town capital improvement plan committees and reviewed. So the roof replacement, which actually began last summer, so 2024, is set to continue all the way through the summer of 2027. We do have a limited period of time where that work can be done during the summer, and that will cover the full replacement of both the main school building and the gymnasium. The final phase of funding, so this warrant article, has been strategically timed to coincide with the expiration of the building bond, allowing for the district to offset the cost and minimize the financial impact for taxpayers. The total cost of the FY26 operating budget and warrant articles with this roof included is only a 0.74% increase over FY25. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Please state your name and what town you're from.
Good evening, Sharon Mullen from Hampton. I misunderstood the order and was going to ask a question about each operating, each warrant 1 and 2. I guess 1 would be purely academic at this point. My question about 2, however, is if there is any allowance or preparation for solar or other means of deferring the buildings and operating budget in the future.
That's a great question. So as part of our specifications, we did ensure that the new roof will be solar ready, because another item on our capital improvement plan is to eventually add solar, which our roof is the perfect placement for it, but we have to wait for the roof to be complete before we can do that. So realistically, we're looking at 2028 for that type of project, assuming we decide to move forward with that.
Okay, and will various incentives that may currently, perhaps not in the future with the changes in federal government taking place, will you be relying on incentives from utilities, state or federal, and if those are not available, is that likely to eliminate this
Yeah,
project?
that's another great question. Going historically, solar there hasn't been a great financial argument for municipal solar because we couldn't monetize the tax credits like residential solar could. We could through a third party, but that eats into it because they get their margin. With the new Inflation Reduction Act, that eliminated that barrier, so now there is a financial return. Previously, it was close to 18 years. Now it's 10 years. So that is an important factor that could potentially change based on the timing and the administration that we'll obviously monitor and we'll have to take into consideration at that time. Unfortunately, we have to wait for the roof before we can do the solar, but I share that same concern.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on warrant Article 2? Going once, going twice. Oh, here we go. Just your name and your address, yes.
Alan Barkley, 85 Brown Ave. And for this format, I have a couple questions.
Does it pertain to this warrant article?
Yes.
Okay, great.
One question was.
You could speak into the microphone.
One question was, when's the last time the roof was done?
Matt, answer that?
Yeah, so the roof was done approximately 20 years ago.
And do we expect the roof to last 20 years? Or is there a possibility it might last longer because something's going to be done better with this time when they do the roof that they didn't do last time?
Yeah, so this is the specifications for this roof is a different material, and we are speccing out a 30-year time period. So that's the intent, is to get 30 years out of the roof.
And what material is that?
It's either TPO or it's not TPO. I'm not sure. I don't know off the top of my head. That's either the old one or the new one. I'm sorry. If you leave your information with me, I can absolutely email you with that information. My apologies. I don't have that off the top of my head. So,
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you for answering the questions.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, to the best of your ability.
Which is a low bar.
That sounded like a performance. Okay, so we'll do it again. Going once, going twice. No further questions? Okay, great. That motion will appear on the ballot as written.
Motion to place Article 2 on the official ballot as read.
Okay.
Oh, to
Can you repeat that? Just speak it in the
Sorry.
microphone.
Motion to restrict reconsideration.
Okay, is there a second to the motion to restrict reconsideration?
I'll second.
Gonna make me say your name again? Nicole C. has seconded that motion. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your cards. Is there anyone opposed? Thank you very much. We'll move on to Article number 3. Shall the departments of the Winnacunnet School District be required to adopt and implement zero-based budgeting when preparing and submitting budgets to the district treasurer and school board for consideration for March 2026 proposals for 2027? All Winnacunnet School District departments are to start at $0, justify every expense in each department, and then review each department budget with the Winnacunnet school budget for inclusion in the annual Winnacunnet School District ballot at the 2026 town election. This is a citizen's petition by 25 or more registered voters of the town of Hampton, and a majority vote is required. And I should say that this would be an advisory warrant article. It's not enforceable according to legal opinion, but it would be an advisory opinion, or it would be advisory to the board going forward if it should pass. Is there a motion to open discussion on this item?
I move to open the article for discussion.
A motion to open the discussion by Leslie LaFond. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, Mr. Moderator.
A second from Tricia O'Keefe. Does anyone wish to speak to the article? Step forward and mention your name and your address.
Tracy Williams, Northampton. It's my understanding that all of the schools already use zero-based budgeting. So is there any reason why this warrant article is necessary?
Matt, would you like to take that one?
Certainly. Yeah, so we already use a zero-based approach, so there's really no impact on us. So.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak to the warrant article? Going, oh, okay.
Mike Egger, 70 on Saris. I just wanted to mention I'm not in favor of this article. If anybody has just sat through the explanation of the budget, and also have looked at it, shown that it goes back to 21, 22, it covers things rather comprehensively. I would hope that they would not vote for this article. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Again, going once, going twice. Okay, this article will appear on the ballot as written.
Mr. Moderator, I move to restrict reconsideration for Article 3.
A motion to restrict reconsideration has been made by Leslie LaFont. Is there a second?
Mr. Moderator, I'll second that.
And Tricia O'Keefe has seconded it. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your cards. Is there anyone opposed? Okay. I suppose I need to count that now, don't I? The motion carried. Thank you. Okay, that concludes the first session of the annual meeting of the Winnacunnet School District. The second session, where all the registered voters of Northampton, Hampton Falls, and Seabrook will have an opportunity to vote on the articles we reviewed here this evening, will take place on March 14th. I hope I have the right date. March 11th, see? March 11th. March 11th, 2023. 25. Wow. All right. In addition to these warrant articles, voters will also be electing individuals to the following positions. A Winnacunnet School Board member for Northampton, Tamara Lay, who has served on the board for 3 years representing Northampton, has decided not to run for re-election, and I thank her for her service to the district. One candidate has filed for the position, Tracy Williams, so her name will be on the ballot. Also, there is an opening for the Winnacunnet Budget Committee member for Northampton, and Donna McKay has been in that position for the last 2 years. Donna? 2? 3? 1? Well, the position's open. And Alan LeBlanc is running for that position, and he is the only name on the ballot. Voting on March 11th will take place in Northampton at the Northampton School Gymnasium from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. In Hampton at the Winnacunnet High Dining Hall from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Hampton Falls to Lincoln Ackerman School Cafeteria from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And Seabrook at the Seabrook Recreation Center from 7 a.m. to 8 to 7 p.m. Please don't forget to vote, and please encourage your friends, family, and neighbors to do so as well. And thank you and good night.